You know that moment when your whole world shifts? When everything you thought you knew about love, sacrifice, and family just shatters? I'm standing here now, and I still can't quite believe what happened. But let me tell you everything, because this story needs to be told. Picture this, a rooftop reception hall in Phoenix, Arizona. The sun is setting over the desert, painting the sky in those brilliant shades of orange and pink that make people move here in the first place. There's a gentle breeze, the kind that makes the palm fronds whisper. String lights are twinkling overhead. Everyone's dressed in their finest, silk dresses, tailored suits, champagne flowing like water. It's the kind of wedding people dream about. The kind of wedding I had dreamed about for my daughter since the day she was born. And I'm standing there, holding a glass of champagne I didn't even want to drink, watching my daughter, Mylena, laughing with her new husband and his family. I'm watching and I'm feeling hollow. That's the only word for it. Hollow. The MC taps the microphone. And now, he says with that practiced enthusiasm that wedding hosts always have, a few words from the bride's mother. I didn't ask to speak. I hadn't planned to speak. But I had written something, something small. Just a few words about how proud I was, how beautiful she looked, how I hoped her marriage would be filled with all the love and joy she deserved. It was in my purse, folded up, already stained with tears I'd shed earlier that morning in the hotel bathroom. But before I can even move, before I can even set down my glass, my daughter, Mylena, rushes forward. She grabs that microphone like it's a lifeline, and she says, loud enough for everyone to hear. No. She has nothing to say. The crowd goes silent. That immediate, uncomfortable silence that happens when something goes terribly wrong at a social event. But she doesn't stop there. Oh no. She keeps going. She always makes things dramatic. Honestly, she pauses, looks right at me with these eyes I don't even recognize anymore, and says, I wish you'd never raised me. Gasps. Literal gasps from the crowd. Her new in-laws' mouths drop open. The photographer lowers his camera. Waiters freeze mid-step with their trays of hors d'oeuvres. The string quartet stops playing. Everyone is staring at me, waiting to see what I'll do. Waiting to see if I'll cry, if I'll scream, if I'll make that scene she's accusing me of always making. But, you know what? I don't cry. I don't scream. I don't beg or plead or try to explain myself to these people who have spent months looking at me like I'm something they stepped in. I just look at her, this stranger wearing my daughter's face, and I say, as calmly as I can manage, then today, consider yourself unraised. I set down my glass. It makes this little clink sound against the high-top table. And I walk out. I walk past all those shocked faces, past the whispers that are already starting, past the groom's mother Beatrice, who's looking at me like I'm the villain in all of this. I walk down those stairs, through the lobby, out into the parking lot where the heat is still radiating off the asphalt, even though the sun is setting. And as I'm driving away, my hands shaking so badly, I can barely grip the steering wheel. I'm thinking, how did we get here? How did my baby girl, the child I gave everything for, how did she become this person who could stand in front of 100 people and wish I'd never raised her? Let me show you. Let me take you back and show you exactly how we reached this point, because it didn't start at that wedding. It started long before. Maybe it started the moment she met his family. Maybe it started even earlier than that, in ways I was too tired to notice. I need you to understand something about my life before all of this. I'm not rich. I've never been rich. I work as a nurse at a community hospital in Glendale, and I've been doing it for 23 years. 23 years of double shifts and weekend rounds and night charting that leaves my eyes burning by 3 a.m. 23 years of back pain and varicose veins and scrubs that never quite feel clean no matter how many times you wash them. I live in a modest duplex. One side is mine. The other side is rented by a retired teacher named Margaret who grows tomatoes in the shared backyard and leaves me little bags of them on my doorstep. My living room furniture is from IKEA, the cheap IKEA, not the nice IKEA. My car is a 2011 Honda with a dent in the passenger door from where some kid hit it with a shopping cart 4 years ago. I eat a lot of ramen, a lot of rice and beans. I shop at discount grocery stores and I cut coupons, and I wear my nursing shoes until they literally fall apart because new ones cost $120 and that's groceries for 2 weeks. But you know what I had? A folder. A manila folder with Lena's future written on it in black Sharpie. That folder lived in the top drawer of my dresser, underneath my winter sweaters. And every spare dollar, every single dollar I could save went into that folder. Birthday money from my mother before she passed? In the folder. Overtime pay from covering Christmas shifts when everyone else wanted to be with their families? In the folder. Tax refunds? In the folder. That $50 I found in a jacket pocket that I'd forgotten about? You better believe it went in that folder. Because Lena was my world. She was my reason for everything. Her father left when she was 2 years old, just packed a bag one Tuesday morning, and never came back. No explanation. No goodbye. No child support either, though I tried for years to track him down through the courts. It was just the two of us after that, and I made it work. I made it work by sacrificing everything I wanted, so she could have what she needed. She wanted dance classes when she was 7. I picked up extra shifts. She wanted to go on the school trip to the Grand Canyon in 8th grade. I covered night shifts for 2 months straight. She got into Arizona State University. I co-signed her student loans and took on a third part-time position doing telehealth consults from home, so I could help with her rent. And I never complained. Not once. Because that's what mothers do, right? We sacrifice. We give until there's nothing left to give, and then we find something else to give. That's love. That's what I thought love was. I was exhausted. God, I was so exhausted. There were days when I'd come home from a 12-hour shift and literally collapse on the couch, still in my scrubs, and wake up 3 hours later with my neck kinked and my back screaming. But I was proud. I was so damn proud that I was doing it, that I was giving my daughter a life better than the one I'd had. And she seemed grateful. At least I thought she was. She'd call me from college and tell me about her classes, about her friends, about the internship she was applying for. She'd come home for holidays and hug me and say, "Thanks, Mom," when I'd slip her an envelope with a couple $100s for books or groceries or whatever she needed. But looking back now, I can see when things started to change. I just didn't want to see it then. It started small. Little things that I told myself didn't matter. She stopped calling as much. When I'd reach out, she'd be busy. Always busy. "Sorry, Mom. I'm studying." "Sorry, Mom. I'm at brunch with friends." "Sorry, Mom. I have a networking event." Then one day, one of my coworkers, Sandra from the ICU, pulled me aside during our break. She looked uncomfortable, like she wasn't sure if she should say something or not. "Hey," she said, stirring her coffee way more than necessary. "I saw something on Instagram yesterday. One of my niece's friends posted it, and I thought you should know." She showed me her phone. It was a video clip from someone's Instagram story. My daughter, sitting at some trendy brunch place with exposed brick walls and those expensive-looking industrial light fixtures. She was laughing, throwing her head back, surrounded by girls in sundresses that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. And the caption, the one someone had added over the video, said, "Lena is hilarious." But that's not what made my stomach drop. It was the audio. Someone had asked her about her family, about her background, and I could hear her voice, my daughter's voice, saying, "Mom, please." She can barely afford her own life. The other girls laughed. Like it was funny. Like my struggle to keep us afloat was some kind of punchline. Sandra was watching my face. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I just thought if it was my daughter, I'd want to know." I handed her phone back and forced a smile. "She's just stressed," I said. "College stress, you know? Finals and everything." She doesn't mean it. But even as I said it, I knew I was lying. To Sandra and to myself. That night, I called Lena. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Hey, Mom, what's up?" "I'm kind of in the middle of something." "I just wanted to check in," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "See how you're doing." "I'm fine. Super busy. Can we talk later?"
Sure.
"I love you." "Yeah, you too."
Bye. Click.
I sat there in my duplex, in my worn-out recliner with the spring that pokes through if you sit too far to the left, and I told myself it was fine. She was growing up, finding herself, becoming independent. That was good, right? That was what I wanted for her. But something in my chest felt tight. Something felt wrong. Then she met him, Jason Prescott, and everything accelerated. She called me, actually excited for the first time in months, to tell me she'd started seeing someone seriously. He's amazing, Mom. He's got this great job in tech, and his family is, well, they're really established. I think you'll like him. Established. That was the word she used. Not nice or kind or funny. Established. I should have known then. She brought him home for dinner a few weeks later. I deep cleaned my duplex, scrubbed every surface until my hands were raw. I cooked this elaborate meal. Roasted chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, green beans, homemade rolls. I even bought a little bouquet of flowers for the table from the grocery store, the $5 kind, but still. Jason was polite. That's the word I'd use. Polite in that way that feels cold. He shook my hand with just the tips of his fingers. He said, "This looks lovely," about the meal, but barely ate anything. He kept checking his phone. And when I asked him questions about himself, trying to get to know him, he'd give these short answers and then turn to Lena and start talking about things I didn't understand. Stock options, startup culture, some conference in San Francisco. But the worst part was watching Lena. She was different around him. She sat up straighter. She laughed at things that weren't funny. She used words she never used before. Curated and optimized and synergy. It was like she was performing. Like she was trying to be someone else. Someone better than the daughter of a nurse from Glendale. After they left, I found myself standing at my kitchen sink, washing dishes and crying without really knowing why. I told myself I was being silly. I told myself I should be happy she'd found someone successful, someone who could give her the life I never could. But I wasn't happy. I was terrified. Then came the day she told me she was meeting his parents. She called me from her car. I could hear the turn signal clicking in the background. "So, Jason wants me to meet his parents this weekend," she said. "They live in North Scottsdale. Apparently, they have this big estate." "That's wonderful, honey," I said. "I'm sure they'll love you. I'm nervous, though. I don't know. Jason says they're kind of particular about things. His mom is on like every charity board in Scottsdale. His dad runs some investment firm. I just want to make a good impression." "You'll be perfect," I told her. "Just be yourself." But even as I said it, I wondered which self she'd be. The real Lena, the one who used to dance around our duplex in her pajamas, singing off-key to Taylor Swift? Or this new version, this polished stranger? A few weeks later, she invited me to join them for dinner at the Prescott house. "Jason's mom wants to meet you," she said. "I told him about you, about how you're a nurse and everything." The way she said "and everything" made my skin prickle. "I'd love to," I said. "Great. It's Saturday at 7. Dress nice, okay? Like nice. They're kind of formal." I spent the week's grocery budget on a new dress from Marshall's. Navy blue, knee-length, the nicest thing I'd owned in years. I got my hair done at a Supercuts. I practiced what I'd say, how I'd introduce myself, what questions I'd ask. Driving to North Scottsdale felt like entering a different world. The houses got bigger and bigger the further north I went. Walls appeared, not fences, but actual walls, hiding estates from view. Palm trees lined private driveways. Everything was pristine, manicured, perfect. The Prescott house wasn't a house. It was a compound. Gates. A actual guardhouse. A driveway that curved through landscaping that must cost more to maintain monthly than I made in 6 months. The house itself was this sprawling modern thing, all glass and steel and sharp angles. I parked my dented Honda next to a Tesla and a Mercedes and felt my stomach turn. Lena met me at the door. She looked beautiful, wearing something expensive I didn't recognize, her hair and makeup professionally done. She kissed my cheek quickly. "You made it. Come on, they're out on the terrace." The terrace. Of course they had a terrace. Beatrice Prescott was everything I'd feared she'd be. Tall, thin, blonde hair pulled back in a perfect chignon, wearing white linen that somehow had no wrinkles. She extended her hand like she was offering it to be kissed. "You must be Elena's mother," she said. "Not Lena. Elena. How lovely to finally meet you." "Thank you for having me," I said. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. Jason speaks very highly of Elena. Such an ambitious young woman. And you're a nurse, I understand."
Yes.
"At Valley Community Hospital. I've been there for." "How admirable," she cut me off. "Nurses are so important. I suppose someone has to do the hands-on work, don't they?" The way she said hands-on work made it sound dirty. Like I cleaned sewers for a living. Dinner was excruciating. Every fork had a specific purpose. The wine was older than my car. Beatrice talked about charity galas and country club drama, and people I'd never heard of like I should know who they were. Jason's father, Richard, barely spoke to me at all except to ask one question. "And what does your family do?" "My family? It's just me and Lena," I said. "Her father isn't in the picture." The silence that followed felt like judgment wrapped in expensive linen napkins. But the worst part, the absolute worst part, was watching Lena. She laughed at Beatrice's stories even when they weren't funny. She agreed with Richard's political opinions that I knew for a fact she didn't share. She spoke differently. This crisp, affected pronunciation that made her sound like someone from a BBC drama. She held her wine glass differently. She sat differently. Even her gestures were different, these elegant little movements with her hands that she'd never done before. It was like she was erasing herself. Erasing us. Erasing everything we'd been together, trying to sand off all the rough edges of her real life so she could fit into this polished, perfect world. And when Beatrice said, "Elena, darling, you must tell me where you got that dress. It's divine," and Lena named some designer I'd never heard of, I watched my daughter lie without even flinching. I felt like an intruder. Like I didn't belong there. Like I didn't belong in my own daughter's life anymore. On the drive home, I cried so hard I had to pull over in a Target parking lot and just sit there, gasping for air, wondering when I'd lost her. The wedding planning started about 6 months later. Jason proposed at some resort in Sedona. Lena sent me a photo of the ring, and it was massive, must have cost more than I made in a year. I was happy for her. Or I tried to be happy for her. Mostly I just felt numb. "We're thinking a spring wedding," she told me over the phone. "Something elegant but not too fussy. Beatrice knows an amazing planner." "That sounds wonderful," I said. "Let me know how I can help." "Oh, you don't need to worry about anything, Mom. Beatrice and the planner will handle it." "Well, I'd still like to be involved. She's my daughter, after all." A pause. "Of course. We'll include you." But they didn't. Not really. The emails started coming from the wedding planner, a woman named Genevieve who signed all her messages with "warmest regards" in italic font. Save the dates. Venue options. Invitation designs. And in every single one, I was listed as a guest. Not as the mother of the bride. Not as family. Just Claire Morrison. Guest. I called Lena. "Honey, I think there's a mistake with the planner's emails. She has me listed as a guest instead of." "It's modern formatting, Mom. Don't make it a thing." "I'm not making it a thing, I just—"
Mom, please.
"I'm stressed enough without you adding to it." So, I stopped mentioning it. Then, the decision started happening without me. The dress shopping happened with Beatrice and Jason's sister and Lena's college friends. I found out about it from Facebook photos. The cake tasting happened without me. The floral arrangements were chosen without my input. When I asked if I could help with anything, Lena would say, "We've got it covered," or "Beatrice has someone for that." But the invoices still came to me. Venue deposit, $5,000. "Can you cover this, Mom? We're a little short this month." Catering prepayment, $8,000. "The caterer needs it by Friday." "I know it's a lot, but you said you wanted to help." Photographer retainer, $3,000. "He's the best in Phoenix, Mom. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing." Florist, $2,500. Band, $4,000. Invitations, $1,200. Dress alterations, $800. And on and on and on. I emptied Lena's future folder. I took out a personal loan. I picked up even more shifts, working 7 days a week sometimes, coming home so tired I'd fall asleep in my scrubs on top of my bed. My back hurt constantly. I developed this shake in my left hand from exhaustion. Sandra started leaving me protein bars with little notes that said, "Eat something," because I kept forgetting meals. But I paid. I paid every invoice that came. Because she was my daughter, and this was her wedding, and I wanted her to have the beautiful day she deserved. No one acknowledged it. Not once. Not Lena, not Jason, certainly not Beatrice. The checks would clear, and I'd wait for a thank you that never came. Instead, I'd get updates about how the Prescotts generously offered to cover the bar service, or how Jason's parents are being so wonderful about the honeymoon suite. I was invisible, except when they needed money. 3 days before the wedding, there was a final planning meeting at the venue. I wasn't technically invited, but I showed up anyway because I needed to drop off the final payment for the bar service, $6,000 that I'd had to borrow from my 401k because I had nothing left. The rooftop space was beautiful, I'll give them that. They'd chosen this place with panoramic views of the Phoenix skyline, all glass and modern elegance. White flowers everywhere. Gold accents. Those trendy ghost chairs that look like they're made of ice. It must have cost a fortune. I found Lena in the bridal suite, surrounded by Beatrice and the wedding planner, and a woman doing a trial run of her makeup. She looked up when I walked in, and for just a second, I saw something in her face. Was it guilt? Shame? But it disappeared so fast I might have imagined it.
Mom.
What are you doing here? I had to drop off the bar payment, I said, holding up the check. The coordinator said it was due today. Beatrice looked up sharply. The bar payment? I thought we'd covered that. Silence. Awkward, thick silence. Lena wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom's helping with a few things, she said quietly. How generous, Beatrice said, in a tone that suggested it was anything but. I handed the check to the planner, who took it without really looking at me, and I was about to leave when Lena said, Mom, wait. Can I talk to you for a second? We stepped out into the hallway. She closed the door behind us. About the reception, she started, not meeting my eyes. There's going to be toasts, obviously. Father of the groom, maid of honor, that kind of thing. Okay. And Beatrice thinks, we both think that it's better if we keep the speeches short and, not too emotional. She says emotional speeches kind of ruin the elegance of the moment. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Are you saying you don't want me to make a toast? I'm just saying, please don't speak. Please don't make this about you. Make this about me? The words came out sharper than I intended. Lena, I've paid for 3/4 of this wedding. I've worked myself into the ground to give you this day. I've been excluded from every decision, treated like a stranger, and now you're telling me I can't even say a few words at my own daughter's wedding. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, she hissed. This drama. This making everything a big deal thing you do. Can you just, for once, not make my wedding about your feelings? I reached into my purse. My hands were shaking. I pulled out a folded piece of paper. The toast I'd written. I'd spent hours on it. I'd rewritten it a dozen times, trying to find the perfect words to tell her how much I loved her, how proud I was, how I wished her every happiness, even though my heart was breaking. I held it out to her. I wasn't going to make it about me, I said quietly. I was going to make it about you. About how much I love you. About the incredible woman you've become. She didn't take the paper. She just looked at it like it was something contaminated. Please, Mom. Please don't make a scene. I folded the paper back up, put it back in my purse, and I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I didn't recognize her anymore. I won't say a word, I told her. She looked relieved. Thank you. I knew you'd understand. But I didn't understand. I didn't understand anything anymore. The wedding day itself was beautiful. Perfect weather, perfect venue, perfect everything. I sat in the 3rd row during the ceremony, not the front row, because that was reserved for the Prescotts. I watched my daughter walk down the aisle on Richard Prescott's arm because Jason's father generously offered, and Lena thought it would be less awkward than walking alone since she didn't have a father. She didn't ask me to walk her down the aisle. Didn't even consider it. I sat there in my marshal's dress, watching my daughter marry into this family that I would never be part of, and I felt so alone I could barely breathe. The ceremony was over in 20 minutes. Then everyone moved up to the rooftop for the reception. It was everything she'd wanted. The string lights, the flowers, the perfect sunset, the champagne tower that must have cost $1,000. Her dress, a custom Vera Wang that I'd paid for without even being invited to the fitting, caught the light like something out of a fairy tale. I stood near the back, holding a glass of champagne I didn't want, watching her laugh with Jason's friends and family. Watching Beatrice hold court like a queen. Watching my daughter look happier than I'd seen her in years, and knowing that happiness had nothing to do with me.
Dinner was served.
Speeches began. Jason's father gave a perfectly calibrated toast about family and legacy and the Prescott tradition. The maid of honor, one of Lena's college friends I'd met exactly once, told a funny story about their freshman year. The best man made jokes about Jason that everyone laughed at. And then the MC announced, "And now, a few words from the bride's mother." I hadn't asked to speak. I had explicitly promised not to speak. But apparently someone had put me on the program anyway. Maybe the planner. Maybe someone who thought it would look weird if the mother of the bride said nothing. I wasn't even going to go up there. I was going to stay exactly where I was and let the moment pass. But Lena didn't know that. She panicked. She rushed forward and grabbed the microphone from the MC before I could even move. "No," she said into the microphone, her voice echoing across the rooftop. "She has nothing to say." Everyone went quiet. I could feel hundreds of eyes turning toward me. But she wasn't done. "She always makes things dramatic," she continued, and she was looking right at me now, her eyes hard. "Honestly, I wish you'd never raised me." The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt my knees go weak. Felt the champagne glass nearly slip from my hand. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers started immediately. The photographer lowered his camera. One of the waiters dropped a tray, and it clattered across the floor, but no one even looked. Everyone was staring at us. At me. Waiting to see what I would do. And in that moment, that horrible, crystalline moment, something inside me just broke. Or maybe it finally healed. I don't know. But something fundamental shifted. Because I realized she was right. She did wish I'd never raised her. She wished she'd been born into money, into privilege, into the Prescott world where mothers wore white linen without getting it dirty and said things like, how admirable, when they really meant, how pathetic. She was ashamed of me, of my work, of my duplex, of my Honda with the dent in the door, of every sacrifice I'd made, every shift I'd worked, every dollar I'd saved. She was ashamed of the life we'd had together, and she wanted to erase it. Erase me. So I looked at her, my daughter, my Lena, this stranger in a Vera Wang dress, and I said, "Then today, consider yourself unraised." My voice was calm, steady. It didn't shake the way my hands were shaking. I set down my champagne glass. It made a small sound against the table. And I walked out, down the stairs, through the lobby, past the fountain where they'd taken wedding photos earlier, through the parking lot, into my car. And as I drove away, I could see people on the rooftop in my rearview mirror, all of them still frozen, all of them still staring at the space where I'd been. I drove for an hour, without knowing where I was going. Just drove, tears streaming down my face, my whole body shaking with sobs I'd been holding in for months, no, years. Eventually, I ended up at a cheap motel off the highway. One of those places with hourly rates and a flickering neon sign, and a front desk clerk who looked like he'd stopped caring about other people's problems a long time ago. I paid cash for one night. The room smelled like bleach and old cigarettes, but I didn't care. I sat on the edge of the bed, and I opened my purse. Inside was the folder. Not Lena's future anymore. I'd emptied that months ago. This was different. This was all the paperwork I'd accumulated throughout the wedding planning. All the receipts, all the invoices, all the confirmation emails I'd printed out because I'm old-fashioned that way. I spread them out on the scratchy motel comforter and I looked at them. Really looked at them. Venue deposit, $5,000. Receipt with my name and credit card. Catering, $8,000. Check number 2847, my signature. Photography, $3,000. Paid via bank transfer from my checking account. Florals, $2,500. My Visa card. Band, $4,000. Another check, another piece of my 401k. Bar service, $6,000. The check I'd handed over just 3 days ago. Dress alterations, $800. Invitations, $1,200. Cake, $1,800. Chairs, $950. Linens, $600. Favors, $400. And then there were the other things. The things nobody knew about because they hadn't happened yet. The honeymoon. They were flying to Bora Bora first class, overwater bungalow, the works. The resort had called me 2 weeks ago to confirm the final payment, $12,000.
Due next week.
My card was on file. The condo. They'd found a place in downtown Scottsdale, some luxury building with a rooftop pool and a 24-hour concierge. The rental agency had called me to verify the cosigner information, my name, my employment, my income. I was guaranteeing the lease. If they couldn't pay, I was on the hook. There was also the catering balance, another $4,000 due 30 days after the event. And the photographer's final payment, $2,000, when we received the finished album. I looked at all of this mountain of paper, this evidence of everything I'd given, and I thought about what my daughter had said to me. I wish you'd never raised me. And I thought, okay then. I pulled out my phone. First call was to the honeymoon resort. It took 15 minutes to get through to the right person, and she was very kind, very understanding when I explained that I needed to cancel the reservation. I'm sorry to hear that, she said. There is a cancellation fee, I'm afraid. 50% of the total. That's fine. Cancel it. And the name on the reservation is? Lena Prescott. Well, it was Morrison, but she just got married today. Congratulations to her. Though I'm sorry about the cancellation. May I ask, is everything all right? Everything's perfect, I said, and I meant it. Please remove my card from the file. Of course. You should see the refund in 7 to 10 business days. Next was the condo. The leasing office had an emergency line, and after some transfers I got through to a manager. I need to remove myself as a co-signer on a lease, I said. What's the unit number? I gave it to him. He clicked around on his computer. Yes, I have it here. But ma'am, if we remove you as the co-signer, the application will need to be re-reviewed. The primary tenants may not qualify on their own. I understand. This could result in the lease being denied. I understand. More clicking. All right. I've flagged the file. We'll send notification to the primary tenants that they need to come in and reapply without a cosigner. If they're approved, everything moves forward. If not, we'll return their deposit. Thank you. Then the photographer. He answered on the second ring, sounding happy and tired. Claire.
How are you?
What a beautiful wedding today. Your daughter looked absolutely radiant. Thank you, I said. I need to discuss the payment arrangement. Oh, the final balance isn't due until we deliver the album. That won't be for another 8 weeks. I understand, but I need to remove my card from your file. Any remaining balance will need to be paid by Lena or Jason. A pause. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I just need to update the billing information. Of course. I'll make a note. Next was the caterer, the bar service company, the venue coordinator about an outstanding balance for some last-minute additions. Every single one of them, I explained that I needed my name removed from the account, that any future charges should go to the bride and groom directly. Some of them asked questions. Most of them just said, okay, and updated their files. It took 3 hours. 3 hours of phone calls from a motel room that smelled like bleach. But by the end of it, my name was removed from everything. Every pending charge, every outstanding balance, every automatic payment. I wasn't on the honeymoon reservation. I wasn't co-signing their lease. I wasn't covering any more wedding expenses. I was done. I lay back on the motel bed and I stared at the water-stained ceiling and I felt lighter. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. My phone was buzzing. Text messages and missed calls were piling up. I turned it on silent and closed my eyes. I didn't sleep that night.
Not really.
I dozed off for a few minutes and then jolted awake, my heart pounding, replaying the moment over and over. Her face. Her voice. I wish you'd never raised me. Around 5 a.m., I gave up trying to sleep. I made terrible coffee from the little machine in the motel room. It tasted like hot brown water, but at least it was hot. I sat in the scratchy armchair and I watched the sunrise through the gap in the curtains, streaks of pink and orange lighting up the Phoenix sky. My phone was still on silent, but I could see the screen lighting up every few minutes. Messages.
Calls.
Voicemails piling up. I didn't want to look. Part of me wanted to throw the phone in the trash, check out of this motel, and just drive. Drive until I hit California or Mexico or the ocean, start over somewhere no one knew me or my daughter or the Prescotts or any of it. But I couldn't. Not yet. So I picked up the phone and I started reading. The first few messages were from numbers I didn't recognize. Wedding guests, probably, who'd gotten my number from someone. I just wanted to say I'm sorry about what happened. That was completely inappropriate. Are you okay? That was awful. No mother deserves that. I can't believe she said that to you in front of everyone. I would have walked out too. I deleted those. I didn't need pity from strangers. Then there were messages from people I did know. Sandra from work. Claire, honey, I don't know what happened, but I'm here if you need me. Call me when you can. Margaret, my neighbor. Saw your car wasn't home. Hope everything's all right with the wedding. Saving you some tomatoes. And then there were the messages from Lena. The first one came in at 11:47 p.m., about 3 hours after I'd walked out. Mom, where are you? People are asking. Then at 12:23 a.m., can you please just answer me? I need to know you're safe. At 1:15 a.m., Mom, this is ridiculous. You're making this worse by disappearing. At 2:03 a.m., fine. Don't answer, but we need to talk tomorrow. And then, at 6:38 a.m., just a few minutes ago, a longer one. Mom, I just got a call from the resort in Bora Bora. They said our honeymoon reservation was canceled. They said you canceled it? What the hell? Why would you do that? Jason is freaking out. His parents paid for our flights, and now we don't have anywhere to stay. Please tell me this is a mistake. I stared at that message for a long time. Read it over and over. Not, I'm sorry for what I said. Not, I'm sorry for hurting you. Not, can we please talk about what happened? Just, why would you do that? Why would you ruin this for me? I turned the phone back to silent and set it face down on the table. Let her wait. Let her wonder. Let her feel, for just a few hours, what it's like to need something and have no one there to give it to you. I checked out of the motel around 8 a.m., drove to a coffee shop, a real one, not a chain, and I sat in the corner with a latte and a muffin I couldn't really taste, and I just existed. Watched people come and go. Young couples holding hands. A mother with 2 small kids who were arguing over a cookie. A group of college students laughing over their laptops. Normal people. Normal lives. None of them knew that my whole world had imploded less than 12 hours ago. My phone kept buzzing. I kept ignoring it. Finally, around 10 a.m., I looked at it again. 14 missed calls. 23 text messages. 6 voicemails. Most of them were from Lena, escalating in urgency and anger. Mom, please answer. This isn't funny. The condo place called. They said you removed yourself as co-signer? What is going on? We're supposed to move in next week. They're saying they need to re-review our application. Why would you do this? Mom, I'm serious. You need to call me back right now. And then one from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Morrison, this is Beatrice Prescott. I think we need to have a conversation about your behavior last night. What you did was extremely inappropriate, and you've embarrassed not only yourself but Elena and our entire family. I suggest you apologize and make this right before you do any more damage. I read that one 3 times. Then I blocked the number. There was also a voicemail from Jason. His voice was tight, angry, trying to sound reasonable and failing. Claire, it's Jason. Look, I get that you're upset about what happened last night, but you're being really immature right now. Lena is your daughter. This is her honeymoon we're talking about. You need to call the resort back and reinstate the reservation. And the condo thing, I don't know what you were thinking, but we have a lease starting next week. You can't just pull out of a legal commitment because your feelings got hurt. Call me back. I deleted it. My feelings got hurt. That's what he thought this was. Hurt feelings. Like I was a child throwing a tantrum because I didn't get my way. Not a mother who'd sacrificed everything. Not a woman who'd worked herself to the bone to give her daughter a beautiful life. Not someone who'd been publicly humiliated and disowned in front of 100 people. Just your feelings got hurt. I sat there in that coffee shop and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Something that had been buried under exhaustion and obligation and maternal guilt for so many years I'd forgotten it existed. Anger. Pure, clean, righteous anger. Around noon, she called again. This time, I answered. Mom? Finally. Where have you been? I've been calling you all morning. I know. Why weren't you answering? Do you have any idea how worried I've been? Have you? I asked quietly. What? Have you been worried? Or have you been worried about your honeymoon and your condo? Silence. Then, that's not fair. Isn't it? Mom, look. Her voice shifted, became softer, placating. The voice she used to use when she wanted something. I know last night got heated. I was stressed. It was a lot of pressure. I said some things I shouldn't have said. You said you wished I'd never raised you. I was upset. You were about to give some speech, and Beatrice had specifically said, I wasn't going to give a speech, Lena. I wasn't going to say a word. I promised you I wouldn't. Then why did the MC? I don't know. I didn't ask him to announce me. But it doesn't matter, does it? Because you made it very clear how you feel about me. In front of everyone. Another silence. Then, look, can we talk about this later? Right now I need you to call the resort back. And the condo people. Jason's parents are furious, and we need to fix this before. No. What? No. I'm not calling anyone back. I'm not fixing anything. Mom, you can't be serious. I have never been more serious in my life. But the honeymoon, we're supposed to leave in 3 days. Then I suggest you figure out how to pay for it yourselves. We don't have $12,000 just lying around. Neither do I, Lena. I had to borrow from my retirement to cover that reservation. My retirement. The money I'm supposed to live on when I'm too old to work 12-hour shifts. And you want me to just hand it over so you can have a fancy vacation after you told 100 people you wish I'd never raised you? I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it then? Explain it to me. Explain how there's a good way to tell your mother, in public, at your wedding, into a microphone, that you wish she'd never raised you. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Fast, shallow breaths like she was trying not to cry. I was embarrassed, okay? You were going to make some emotional speech and Beatrice and her friends were all there, and I just wanted everything to be perfect and elegant, and I ruined that. Is that it? I'm an embarrassment. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. More silence. Then, quietly. What do you want from me? I don't want anything from you, Lena. Not anymore. You made it clear last night that you don't need me. That you don't want me. So, I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. You're free. You're unraised. Starting now, you figure out your own life. You can't do this. I can. And I am. What about the condo? What about it? We can't afford it without you as a co-signer. They're going to reject our application. Then find a cheaper place. Or ask Jason's parents. I'm sure Beatrice can help you. She already said they've contributed enough. And Jason's salary isn't high enough on its own, and my job is still probationary, and she stopped. Caught herself. But I'd heard it. Wait, I said slowly. Your job is probationary? You told me you had a permanent position. It's complicated. Did you lie to me about your job? I didn't lie, I didn't want you to worry. It's going to become permanent. They just need to see how I do for the first 6 months, and... So you lied. You lied about having stable employment, and then you asked me to co-sign a lease for a place you can't afford on the income you actually have. I knew it would work out. I knew they'd make me permanent. But you don't know that. You gambled with my financial security because you wanted a nice address in Scottsdale. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Lena?
Explain it to me.
Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've spent the last year using me for money while being ashamed of me in public. You wanted my wallet, but not my presence. My payments, but not my voice. And the second I became inconvenient, you wished I'd never raised you at all. I heard her sob. A real, broken sound. Part of me, the mother part, the part that had spent 26 years putting her needs before my own, wanted to take it all back. Wanted to say, it's okay, baby, we'll figure it out, let me help you. But I didn't. Because it wasn't okay. And I was done pretending it was. We need to talk in person, she said finally, her voice thick with tears. I don't think that's a good idea right now. Please, Mom. Please. Can we meet somewhere? Just the two of us. No Jason, no Beatrice. Just us. I closed my eyes.
Took a breath.
There's a place by the Salt River, I said. The overlook where we used to feed the ducks when you were little. Do you remember it? Yes. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Okay, I'll be there.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you. She hung up before I could tell her not to thank me. That this wasn't forgiveness. That this was just me, giving her one chance to explain herself before I walked away from her completely. That night, I slept in my own bed. My duplex felt different somehow. Emptier, maybe. Or maybe just quieter. I kept expecting my phone to ring, kept expecting more angry calls or desperate messages. But there was nothing after that last conversation with Lena. Radio silence. I made myself dinner, just scrambled eggs and toast, nothing fancy, and I ate it at my little kitchen table. Margaret had left a bag of tomatoes on my doorstep like she'd promised, along with a note. Hope the wedding was beautiful. Tell me all about it when you're ready. I didn't have the heart to tell her what had really happened. Not yet. I went to bed early, exhausted from 2 nights of no sleep and the emotional whiplash of the last 48 hours. But as I was drifting off, my phone buzzed one more time. It was Sandra. Heard through the grapevine what happened. I won't ask questions, but I'm here if you need me. Also, you're scheduled for 3 doubles this week. I'm getting them reassigned.
You need to rest.
Don't argue with me. I smiled for the first time in days. Texted back. Thank you. And then I slept. Really slept. 10 hours straight, dreamless and deep, my body finally letting go of the tension I'd been carrying. The next day dragged. I cleaned my duplex even though it didn't need cleaning. Organized my closet. Did laundry. Anything to keep my hands busy and my mind from racing toward 2 p.m. I got to the overlook at 1:45. It was a beautiful day, bright blue sky, warm but not too hot, a breeze coming off the river. The place hadn't changed much since Lena was little. Same wooden fence. Same worn path down to the water. Same bench where we used to sit with a bag of breadcrumbs, watching the ducks paddle around. I sat on that bench, and I waited. She arrived at 2:07, pulling up in a car I didn't recognize, something sleek and expensive, probably borrowed from Jason's family. She was wearing sunglasses and casual clothes, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked exhausted. Good. Welcome to how I'd felt for the last 2 years. She walked toward me slowly, like she wasn't sure if I'd bolt. Sat down on the other end of the bench, leaving space between us that felt like a canyon. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. We just sat there, watching the river flow by, listening to the ducks quack at each other. Finally, she spoke. I'm sorry. 2 words. quiet, almost swallowed by the wind. Are you? I asked.
Yes.
I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry for how I said it. I was cruel, and you didn't deserve that.
No, I didn't.
I was just so stressed, and Beatrice had been in my ear all week about how the wedding had to be perfect, and I felt like I was being pulled in a million directions, and when the MC said your name, I panicked. You panicked, I repeated flatly. And so you told a room full of people that you wished I'd never raised you. I know. I know how it sounded.
Do you?
Because it sounded like you meant it, Lena. It sounded like you've been thinking it for a while and finally found the excuse to say it out loud. She pulled off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, swollen from crying. I don't wish you'd never raised me. I don't. You're my mom. You've always been there for me. I know that. But what? There's a but coming. I can hear it. She looked away, toward the river. But sometimes I just wanted different. Not because you weren't enough. Just because I wanted more. And I know how that sounds.
I know how selfish that is.
But Jason's family, they have this whole world that I never even knew existed. And when I'm with them, I feel like I could be someone else. Someone better. Someone who isn't the daughter of a nurse from Glendale. She flinched. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? You've been ashamed of me since the moment you met Jason. The way you talk different around his family. The way you wouldn't let me be involved in the wedding planning. The way you introduced me to Beatrice like I was some distant relative you were obligated to invite. You've been trying to erase where you came from, Lena. Trying to erase me. I haven't. You have. My voice was louder now, echoing across the water. A few ducks scattered. You've spent a year treating me like an ATM machine. Taking my money, my co-signatures, my financial backing, but God forbid I actually show up and exist in your new perfect life. God forbid anyone know that your mother wears scrubs to work and drives a Honda with a dent in the door. I never said. You didn't have to say it. I saw it. I saw the way you looked at me at Beatrice's house. The way you changed your whole voice, your whole personality. The way you lied about your dress, claimed you bought it from some designer when I was the one who paid for it.
You were ashamed of me. Admit it.
She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Maybe I was. Maybe I was a little bit. Is that so wrong? Is it so wrong to want to fit in with my husband's family? To want them to respect me? And they won't respect you if they know your mother is working class? If they know you came from a duplex instead of an estate? You don't understand what it's like. You don't understand the pressure. You're right.
I don't understand.
Because I was too busy working double shifts to pay for your fairy tale wedding to worry about what rich people thought of me. That hit her. I could see it in her face. Did you even know? I asked more quietly now. Did you even know how much I paid? Or did you just assume it was easy for me? That I had money lying around? I knew it was expensive. I knew you were helping. Helping. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Lena, I paid for 3/4 of that wedding. $53,000. Do you know what that means for someone like me? Her eyes went wide. $53,000. I emptied my savings. I took out a personal loan. I borrowed from my 401k, the retirement fund I've been building for 23 years. I worked myself sick, literally sick, because you needed deposits and payments and retainers. And not once, not one single time, did you acknowledge it. Not a thank you. Not a mom. Are you sure you can afford this? Nothing. You just took and took and took, and when I had the audacity to exist at your wedding, you wished I'd never raised you. She was shaking her head, tears dripping off her chin. I didn't know. I didn't know it was that much. I thought Jason's parents were covering more. I thought you were just helping with some of it. Because you didn't ask. You didn't want to know. Because if you knew, you have to feel guilty about it, and that would ruin your perfect new life. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tell me something, Lena. Be honest with me. When you look at me, what do you see? She opened her mouth.
Closed it.
Opened it again. I see my mom.
No. What do you really see?
Because I don't think you see your mom anymore. I think you see someone who doesn't fit. Someone who makes you uncomfortable. Someone you have to explain or apologize for. Am I wrong? The silence was answer enough. I thought so, I said softly. We sat there for a while longer. The ducks had come back, paddling around near the shore, hoping for breadcrumbs we didn't have. What happens now? Lena asked finally, her voice small. I don't know. Are you going to help us? With the honeymoon, the condo? I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who used to be my little girl. Who used to hold my hand crossing the street. Who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Who used to tell me I was the best mom in the world. No, I said. But
No.
you wanted a life without me in it. You made that very clear. So now you get to figure it out on your own.
Mom, please.
What you need, I interrupted, is to learn what it means to stand on your own. You've spent your entire adult life using me as a safety net while pretending I didn't exist. Well, the safety net is gone now. If you want the fancy condo in Scottsdale, figure out how to afford it.
If you
Want the honeymoon in Bora Bora, pay for it yourselves. If you want to be part of the Prescott world, do it without my money. We can't afford any of that without you. Then maybe you were living beyond your means. She stood up abruptly, her hands clenched into fists. You're being cruel. Am I? Or am I just doing what you asked? You wanted me out of your life. You're free. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Maybe not consciously. Maybe you didn't plan to say those exact words. But you've been pushing me away for a year, Lena. You've been building this new life that has no room for me in it. I'm just giving you permission to have it. Without any support? Without any help? How is that fair? Fair. I stood up too, facing her. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair that I worked 70-hour weeks to put you through college? Was it fair that I took out loans I'm still paying off so you could have a dorm room instead of commuting? Was it fair that I gave up everything, vacations, retirement savings, a social life, my own health so you could have opportunities one never had? And then, when you got those opportunities, you looked back at me and you were ashamed. So don't talk to me about fair, Lena. You don't get to talk to me about fair. I didn't ask you to sacrifice everything. No, you just let me do it. You just took everything I gave and never once said, Mom, this is too much, or Mom, take care of yourself too. You just kept taking because it was easier than thinking about what it cost me. She was sobbing now, ugly crying, the kind that shakes your whole body. Part of me wanted to hug her. Part of me wanted to tell her it would be okay. But I didn't. Because it wasn't okay. And pretending it was okay, pretending any of this was okay, would just be enabling her to keep treating me this way. I love you, I said quietly. I have always loved you. I would have died for you without hesitation. But I won't let you use me anymore. And I won't let you be ashamed of me anymore. So if you want me in your life, really want me, not just my money, then you need to figure out who you are and what you actually value. Because right now, I don't think you know. Mom, I'm going home now. When you're ready to have a real conversation, not about money, not about what I can do for you, but about us, you know where to find me. I walked past her, toward my car. She called after me, her voice breaking. What if I need you? I stopped. Turned back to look at her one more time. Then you'll remember what I needed. Standing on that rooftop, humiliated in front of everyone, hearing my own daughter say she wished I'd never raised her. And maybe you'll understand that need goes both ways. I got in my car and I drove away, watching her in my rearview mirror, standing alone by the river, crying into her hands. And it hurt. God, it hurt. But it also felt right. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. My phone didn't ring. No texts from Lena. No angry voicemails from Jason or Beatrice. Just silence. I went back to work. Sandra gave me the schedule she'd promised, no doubles, just regular 8-hour shifts. It felt strange to come home while it was still light outside. To have evenings. To not fall asleep in my scrubs. Margaret invited me over for dinner. We ate pasta with her garden tomatoes, and she told me about her grandson's baseball team, and she didn't ask about the wedding until dessert. So, she said casually, serving me a slice of lemon cake. How'd it go? It didn't. She nodded like she'd expected that answer. Want to talk about it? Not really. Fair enough. More cake. I smiled despite myself. Yes, please. A week went by. Then another. I started picking up hobbies I'd forgotten I had. I read books. I watched movies. I took walks in the evening when the heat broke. I slept 8 hours a night. I cooked real meals. I felt like a person again instead of just a paycheck. And then, 2 weeks after the wedding, something happened that I wasn't expecting. I had to drop off a package at Lena's office. It had been delivered to my duplex by mistake, some wedding gift that had the wrong address. I could have just left it, could have let it be returned to sender. But despite everything, I didn't want her to lose a wedding gift because of me. So I drove to her office building downtown. Sleek glass tower, the kind with a lobby that echoes and makes you feel small. I asked the receptionist to call up to Lena, said I just needed to drop something off. She's in a meeting, but I can take it, the receptionist offered. That's fine, I said. But as I was leaving, I heard voices coming from around the corner. A break room, maybe, or a small conference room. And one of those voices was Lena's. I should have kept walking. Should have left the building and gone home and forgotten about it. But I didn't. I stopped. And I listened. Completely unstable, Lena was saying. I don't even know what to do anymore. That's awful, another voice said. Female, sympathetic. Is she getting help? I don't know.
She won't talk to me.
She literally ruined my wedding on purpose. Walked out during the reception, canceled our honeymoon, pulled out of being co-signer on our apartment. Just sabotaged everything because she was mad I didn't let her make a speech. Oh my God. That's so manipulative. Right? And now Jason's parents think I come from this crazy family, and it's affecting how they see me. His mother barely speaks to me now. She thinks my mom's instability reflects on me. My hands were shaking. I stood there in that hallway, holding the misdelivered package, listening to my daughter tell her coworkers that I was crazy, that I was manipulative, that I had ruined her wedding on purpose. Not one word about what she'd said to me. Not one word about the money I'd spent, the sacrifices I'd made. Just, my unstable mother ruined everything. I walked into that break room. There were 4 of them sitting around a small table, Lena and 3 coworkers, all holding coffee cups, all mid-gossip session. They looked up when I entered, and Lena's face went white. Mom, I have your package, I said calmly, setting it on the table. It was delivered to my house by mistake. Thanks. We were just... I heard what you were saying. Silence. The other 3 people looked extremely uncomfortable, like they wanted to melt into their chairs and disappear. Mom, can we not do this here? Do what? Tell the truth? Because that's all I want, Lena. For you to tell the truth. I don't. You told them I'm unstable. That I ruined your wedding on purpose. That I'm manipulative. Is that the story you're telling everyone? That your crazy mother sabotaged your perfect day for no reason? I didn't mean it like. How did you mean it then? Please, explain to your coworkers. Explain to them that you publicly wished I'd never raised you in front of 100 people. Explain that I'd paid for 3/4 of your wedding while you excluded me from every decision. Explain that I worked myself sick to give you everything you wanted, and the moment I became inconvenient, you disowned me. One of the coworkers, a young guy in a button-down, said quietly, maybe we should give you 2 some privacy.
No, I said.
Stay. She's been telling your version. Let me tell you mine. Mom, stop.
Why?
Are you embarrassed? Is this making you uncomfortable? Good. Welcome to how I felt standing on that rooftop while you called me dramatic and told everyone you wished I'd never raised you. Lena stood up, her face flushed. You're making a scene? I'm telling the truth. There's a difference. You need to leave. I'm going. But first, I turned to the coworkers. For the record, I'm not unstable. I'm just done being used. And if she's told you her mother ruined her wedding, ask her how much that wedding cost and who paid for it. Ask her why I was listed as a guest instead of family. Ask her why I wasn't allowed to be involved in any of the planning except to sign checks. Ask her all of that, and then decide if I'm the villain in this story. I walked out before anyone could respond. But as I was leaving the building, a security guard stopped me at the front desk. "Excuse me, ma'am?" I turned. "There's someone from HR who'd like to speak with you." The HR office was small, neat, impersonal. The woman behind the desk, mid-40s, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, gestured for me to sit. "Mrs. Morrison?" "Yes." "I'm Patricia Ramos, head of HR for this office." I apologize for the awkward situation, but I overheard part of what happened in the break room. Our offices aren't very soundproof.
Great.
"I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made a scene. That's not why I asked you here." She pulled up something on her computer. "I actually need to verify some information with you. You're listed as an emergency contact and next of kin for Lena Morrison or Alina Prescott now. Is that correct?" Yes. I was. "And you're also listed as a beneficiary on her health insurance and as a contact for several employment verification documents we have on file." I hadn't known that. I didn't realize. There are also several documents related to her employment transfer when she moved from our Tempe office to downtown that list you as a guarantor and reference. Were you aware of that?
No.
She looked at me over her glasses. The reason I'm asking is that we have policies about employee documentation and financial relationships. If you're listed as a guarantor or financial contact for an employee and that relationship has changed or ended, we need to update our records. I would like to be removed from everything." She nodded slowly. "I understand. Can I ask, and you don't have to answer if it's too personal, but has your relationship with your daughter changed significantly recently?" You could say that. Because if you're no longer in a position to be her emergency contact or financial guarantor, and if those documents were part of why her employment transfer was approved, we may need to re-review her file. The weight of what she was saying settled on me. What does that mean for her? It means her position may need to be reevaluated. She was hired as a permanent employee based partially on the financial stability indicators in her application. If those indicators have changed. She trailed off, leaving the implications hanging in the air. I thought about Lena in that break room, telling her coworkers I was unstable, telling them I'd ruined her wedding on purpose, playing the victim while casting me as the villain. "Remove me from everything," I said. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure." Patricia typed something into her computer. "It will take a few days to process. She'll receive notification that her employment status is being reviewed." "That's fine." "Mrs. Morrison, can I say something off the record?" I nodded. "I'm a mother too. 2 daughters. And I heard enough of what was said in that break room to understand what's happening here. I think you're doing the right thing. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for our children is let them face the consequences of their own choices." My eyes burned. I blinked hard. "Thank you." I drove home in a daze, walked into my duplex and sat on my couch and just breathed. My phone rang about an hour later.
Lena.
I didn't answer. It rang again. Then texts started coming in. "Mom, what did you do?" "HR just called me into a meeting. They're reviewing my employment status? They said you asked to be removed from my paperwork. Why would you do that?" "Mom, this is my job. This is how I pay my bills. You can't do this."
"Please call me back."
"Please." I turned off my phone and made myself dinner. Chicken and rice. Nothing fancy. I ate it slowly, at my kitchen table, while the sun set through my window. Margaret knocked on my door around 8. "Thought you might want company," she said, holding a bottle of wine. "Or at least someone to sit with while you drink this." I let her in. We sat on my couch and she poured us each a glass, and we didn't talk about Lena or the wedding or any of it. We just sat there, 2 women who'd lived long enough to know that sometimes the best comfort is just presence. "You're going to be okay," Margaret said eventually. "I know. It doesn't feel like it now. But you will." "No," I said again, and I meant it. For the first time in weeks, I actually believed it. 3 days later, Lena showed up at my door. I saw her car pull up through my window, watched her sit there for a full 5 minutes before she finally got out. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, no makeup, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt I remembered buying her for Christmas 3 years ago. She knocked. Tentative, quiet. Not the confident knock of someone who expects to be welcomed. I opened the door, but I didn't invite her in. Just stood there in the doorway, waiting. "Can I come in?" she asked. "I don't know."
Can you?
"Mom, please. I need to talk to you." "Then talk." She looked past me into the duplex, like she was hoping I'd relent. When I didn't, she wrapped her arms around herself and spoke to my doormat. "They're downgrading my position. HR says that without the financial stability documentation, they can't keep me in the role I was hired for. They're moving me to a junior position. 30% pay cut. No benefits for 6 months." "I'm sorry to hear that." Her head snapped up. "That's it? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Lena? I want you to fix it. I want you to call them back and tell them it was a mistake." "It wasn't a mistake. Mom, this is my career. My life. You can't just destroy everything I've built because you're angry at me." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just removing myself from your life like you asked me to." "I never asked you to do this." "Yes, you did. You asked me to not exist. You asked me to be invisible. You asked me to give you everything while expecting nothing in return. And when I couldn't do that perfectly enough, you told 100 people you wished I'd never raised you. So now I'm gone. This is what you wanted." "No, it's not. I never wanted." She stopped, her voice breaking. "I never wanted any of this." "Then you should have thought about that before you publicly disowned me." "I was stressed. It was my wedding day. I made a mistake. A mistake is spilling wine on your dress. A mistake is forgetting someone's name. What you did, what you've been doing for months, that wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. Over and over again, you chose Jason's family over me. You chose their approval over my dignity. You chose their money, or what you thought was their money, over our relationship. Those were choices, Lena. Own them." She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "What do you want from me? Do you want me to apologize?"
Fine. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
"Is that enough? Will you please just fix this? I don't want an apology you're only giving because you need something from me. I want you to actually understand what you did. I want you to look at the last year of your life and recognize that you treated me like garbage. I want you to feel, for just a moment, what I felt standing on that rooftop. And I want you to grow up. I am grown up. So, what? You're just going to abandon me? Leave me to figure everything out on my own?" "I'm not abandoning you. I'm letting you stand on your own feet. There's a difference. I can't do this without you." "Yes, you can. You just don't want to. Because it's hard. Because it means making sacrifices and living within your means, and maybe not having the perfect Scottsdale life you thought you'd married into." She sank down onto my doorstep, her head in her hands. "Jason's furious. His parents are furious. They're saying I lied to them about my family, about my background, about my financial situation. Beatrice told Jason maybe we should consider an annulment." Something in my chest tightened. "An annulment?" She says I'm not who they thought I was. That I brought instability into their family. Jason's not talking about annulment, but he's different now. Colder. Like he's seeing me for the first time and doesn't like what he sees. Part of me, a very small, petty part, wanted to say good. Wanted to say that Jason and his family deserved each other and she was better off without them. But I didn't. Because I could see it in her face. The same realization I'd had years ago when her father left. That moment when you understand that the person you thought loved you unconditionally actually had a very long list of conditions, and you've just violated them. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "I'm sorry you're going through this." She looked up at me, surprised. "You are?" "Of course I am. You're still my daughter. I don't want you to hurt, but I also can't save you from this. You built this life on a foundation of lies about who you are, where you come from, what you can actually afford. And now that foundation is cracking. That's not my fault. That's yours. So, What am I supposed to do? You tell the truth. All of it. To Jason, to his parents, to yourself. You tell them that you're the daughter of a nurse, that you grew up in a duplex in Glendale, that you don't come from money, and you never will. And you see if they love you anyway. They won't. Maybe not. But at least you'll know. At least you won't spend the rest of your life pretending to be someone you're not. She was quiet for a long time. Then, what if I can't afford the condo? What if we have to move somewhere cheaper? Then you move somewhere cheaper. What if Jason leaves me? Then he leaves you, and you survive it. Like I survived your father leaving. Like millions of people survive heartbreak every single day. What if I need you? I looked at her, really looked at her. This broken, scared version of my daughter who is finally seeing the real cost of her choices. Then you call me, I said quietly, and I'll answer. But I won't give you money. I won't co-sign anything. I won't be your safety net while you pretend I don't exist. If you want me in your life, I'm here. The real me. The nurse from Glendale with the Honda and the duplex. Not the checkbook you've been using for the past year. Me. I do want you. I do. I don't know how to fix this. You start by being honest. About everything. And then you live with whatever consequences come from that honesty. She nodded slowly, wiping her face with the sleeve of her t-shirt. She looked young suddenly, like the little girl who used to hold my hand. Can I hug you? She asked. I hesitated. Then, yes. She stood up and wrapped her arms around me, and she sobbed into my shoulder like she used to when she was small and the world felt too big. And I held her. Because I'm still her mother. Because love doesn't disappear just because someone hurts you. But I didn't tell her everything would be okay. I didn't promise to fix anything. I just held her while she cried, and then I gently pulled away.
Go home, I said.
Figure out your life. And when you've done that, when you've been honest with Jason and with yourself, call me. We'll talk. Really talk. About everything. She nodded, sniffling. Okay, I will. She walked back to her car. Before she got in, she turned back. Mom, did you really cancel everything just to punish me? No, I said. I canceled everything to save myself. There's a difference. The next few weeks were strange. Quiet, but not the lonely kind of quiet. More like the peaceful kind. The kind that comes after a storm passes, and you can finally breathe again. I went back to my normal schedule at work. No more doubles unless I wanted them. No more 70-hour weeks. I started going to a yoga class on Tuesday nights. Margaret convinced me to try it. I was terrible at it, but it felt good to do something just for me. Sandra took me out for my birthday. I'd forgotten it was coming up, but she remembered. We went to a nice restaurant, the kind I never would have spent money on before. I ordered the salmon and a glass of wine, and I didn't feel guilty about it. You look different, Sandra said over dessert. Different how? Lighter. Like you've been carrying a backpack full of rocks, and you finally put it down. I smiled. That's exactly what it feels like.
My phone would buzz occasionally.
Updates from Lena. Short messages, not asking for anything, just keeping me informed. Told Jason's parents the truth about everything. It didn't go well. Moving to a smaller apartment in Tempe. It's okay. Has a pool. Jason and I are doing counseling. Trying to figure out if we can make this work. Started the new position at work. It's humbling, but I'm learning a lot. I'd respond with simple messages back. I'm proud of you for being honest. The pool sounds nice. Counseling is good. We weren't fixed. We weren't back to normal, whatever normal had been. But we were something. In progress, maybe. Taking baby steps toward understanding each other. 2 months after the wedding, she asked if we could meet for coffee. Not at some trendy place in Scottsdale. At a small cafe near my duplex. The kind with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls and coffee that costs $3 instead of $8. She was already there when I arrived. Wearing jeans and a simple blouse. Hair in a ponytail. No expensive jewelry. She looked more like the girl I remembered. Hi, she said when I sat down. Hi. We ordered coffee. Made small talk about the weather, about work, about Margaret's tomato plants. Dancing around what we really needed to say. Finally, she took a breath. I've been doing a lot of thinking.
And talking.
In therapy, with Jason, by myself. And I realized something. What's that? I was so desperate to escape being poor that I became someone I hated. Someone who was ashamed of the one person who'd sacrificed everything to make sure I never felt poor. I didn't say anything, just listened. When I met Jason's family, I saw this whole world I never had access to. And I wanted it so badly. I wanted to be someone who belonged in that world. Someone sophisticated and elegant and not like me. Not like us. And I convinced myself that the only way to have that life was to erase where I came from. Did you? I asked quietly. Convince yourself?
Yeah.
And then I started believing it. Started believing that you were an embarrassment instead of the strongest person I've ever known. My eyes prickled with tears. The wedding was supposed to be this perfect moment where I finally became that person. That sophisticated, elegant person who belonged in Beatrice's world. And when you were about to speak, I panicked because I thought you'd say something that would remind everyone of who I really was. So, I said the worst thing I could possibly say. And I destroyed us both. Yes, I said. You did. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Not yet. I know I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. I see what I threw away. And I'm so sorry. I wiped my eyes with a napkin. What happened with Jason's family? She laughed bitterly. Exactly what you'd think. Beatrice tried to convince Jason to get an annulment. Said I'd misrepresented myself. Richard said I clearly had character issues. They've basically frozen us out. No more family dinners. No more country club events. Jason's mother won't even take his calls. I'm sorry. Don't be. You were right about them. They didn't love me. They loved the version of me I was pretending to be. And the second that version cracked, they were done. And Jason? She smiled, but it was sad. Jason's trying. He really is. He stuck by me even though his parents are furious. We moved to that apartment in Tempe. It's tiny compared to the Scottsdale place, but it's ours. No co-signers. No help from family. Just us. How does it feel? Terrifying. Liberating. Real. She looked at me. We're eating a lot of ramen. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Welcome to how I've lived for 26 years. I know. I'm starting to understand that.
What you gave up for me.
What it actually cost. We sat there in that cafe, drinking our $3 coffees, and for the first time in over a year, I felt like I was talking to my daughter. Not the stranger she'd become. My actual daughter. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Why did you really cancel everything? Was it just to teach me a lesson? I thought about it.
Really thought about it.
No, I said finally. It was to save my own life. I was drowning Lena. Working myself to death, literally, and getting nothing back. No gratitude. No acknowledgement. No love.
Just more demands.
And I realized that if I didn't stop, I'd die. Maybe not physically, but everything that made me would die. So I stopped. I saved myself. She nodded slowly. That's what my therapist said. She said you were setting boundaries. Your therapist is right. She also said I needed to learn to value you for who you are, not what you can give me.
Do you?
Value me.
She looked right at me.
I'm trying to. I'm really trying. It's hard to unlearn a year of terrible behavior. But I'm trying. That's all I can ask for. We started meeting for coffee every other week after that. Small steps. Rebuilding something that had been burned to the ground. She told me about her life. The real version, not the Instagram version. How hard it was adjusting to a smaller apartment. How weird it felt not having Beatrice's approval. How Jason was learning that she came from struggle and loving her anyway. I told her about my life too. About yoga class and Margaret's tomatoes and the new book club Sandra had dragged me to. About how I'd started putting money back into savings. About how I'd bought myself a new pair of nursing shoes, the good kind, without feeling guilty. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments. Still things we didn't talk about. Still pain that hadn't fully healed.
But it was honest.
And that was more than we'd had before. 4 months after the wedding, I had to drop something off at her apartment in Tempe. She'd left a sweater at the cafe, and I was in the area. She buzzed me up. The apartment was small, tiny really compared to the Scottsdale condo they'd almost leased. Kitchen barely big enough for 2 people. Living room with hand-me-down furniture. But it was clean.
Bright.
There were photos on the walls, including one of me and Lena from when she was little, feeding ducks at the Salt River. I like it, I said. Yeah. She looked around like she was seeing it through my eyes. It's not fancy, but it's ours. Jason came out of the bedroom. He looked different too. More casual. More real. Mrs. Morrison, he said, extending his hand. It's good to see you. I shook his hand. Waited for the judgment, the coldness I'd seen before. But it wasn't there. He just looked tired. Like someone who'd been forced to grow up faster than he'd planned. Can you stay for dinner? Lena asked. We're just making pasta, nothing fancy. But we'd love to have you. I almost said no. Old habits. Not wanting to intrude. Not wanting to expect too much. But then I looked at my daughter's face. Hopeful.
Genuine.
Wanting me there not because she needed something, but because she wanted me. I'd like that, I said. We made dinner together in that tiny kitchen. Pasta with Jared sauce and bagged salad and garlic bread from the grocery store bakery. The kind of meal I'd eaten 1,000 times. But it tasted different that night. Better. Because I wasn't eating alone. Because my daughter was laughing at something Jason said. Because when she looked at me with love instead of shame. After dinner, Lena walked me to my car. Thank you for coming, she said. Thank you for inviting me.
Mom?
Can I give you something? She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check. Not for much, $200, but clearly more than she could easily spare. What's this? It's not nearly enough. Not even close to what I owe you. But it's a start. I'm going to pay you back. All of it. It might take years, but I'm going to do it. I tried to hand it back. Lena, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Not because you asked.
Because I need to.
I need to understand what money actually means. What sacrifice actually costs. So please, take it. I looked at the check. $200. A drop in the bucket of what I'd spent. But it wasn't about the money. It was about what it represented. Accountability.
Growth.
Understanding. I folded the check and put it in my purse. Thank you.
She hugged me. Tight. Real.
I love you, Mom. I love you too. It's been 6 months now since the wedding. 6 months since I walked out of that rooftop reception. 6 months since I canceled everything and removed myself from my daughter's life. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. If I wish I'd handled things differently. If I think I was too harsh. And the answer is no. No, I don't regret it. Because that night, that horrible, heartbreaking night, was the night I stopped being just a mother and remembered I was also a person. A person with dignity.
With worth.
With the right to be treated with respect. Lena and I are rebuilding our relationship.
Slowly. Carefully.
Like archaeologists piecing together something precious that's been broken. It's not easy. There are still hard conversations we need to have. Still wounds that are healing.
But we're doing it honestly now.
Without pretense. Without her pretending to be someone she's not, and me pretending I don't need anything in return for giving everything. She's learning to live within her means. To value honesty over appearances. To understand that real strength comes from accepting who you are, not pretending to be someone else. And I'm learning too. Learning that loving someone doesn't mean destroying yourself for them. That the best thing you can give your children sometimes is not more help, but the space to fail and learn and grow. Jason and Lena are still together. Still working on their marriage. His parents still barely speak to them, but Jason's learning that maybe that's okay. That maybe their approval isn't worth what it costs. As for me, I'm doing better than I have in years. I've paid off the personal loan. I'm rebuilding my savings. I've started taking actual vacations, nothing fancy, just weekend trips to places I've always wanted to see. Margaret and I are planning a trip to Sedona next month. Sandra wants to come too. 3 women in our 50s, driving up to the Red Rocks, staying in a cheap hotel, hiking and laughing and just living. And Lena? She sends me photos sometimes. Of her and Jason at the farmer's market. Of the herb garden she started on their apartment balcony. Of normal, real, unglamorous life. And in those photos, she's smiling.
Really smiling.
Not the performed smile she wore at the wedding. The real thing. Last week she called me. Not because she needed anything.
Just to talk.
I was thinking, she said, about that day at the river. When you said healing starts when honesty does. I remember. You were right. About everything. About me needing to stand on my own. About me being ashamed of you. About all of it. And I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For loving me enough to let me fall. For being strong enough to walk away. For refusing to let me use you anymore. I was angry at the time, but now I understand. You saved us both that night. I had to pull over. Had to stop driving because I was crying too hard to see. You're welcome, I whispered. I'm proud to be your daughter. I know I didn't act like it, but I am. You're the strongest, most incredible person I know. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. We talked for an hour. About everything and nothing. About her job and my yoga class and the book I was reading and her herb garden and just life. Normal, beautiful, honest life. When we hung up, I sat in my parked car and I thought about that rooftop. About standing there with 100 eyes on me, hearing my daughter say she wished I'd never raised her. And I thought about my response. The words that came from somewhere deep inside me, from a place I didn't know I had. Then today, consider yourself unraised. At the time, it felt like an ending. Like I was severing a bond that could never be repaired. But now I understand. It wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The beginning of my daughter learning to stand on her own. The beginning of me learning to stand up for myself. The beginning of us finding our way back to each other. Not as dependent and provider, not as child and martyr, but as 2 whole people who chose to love each other honestly. I unraised her that night. Released her from the unhealthy dynamic we'd fallen into. Freed her from the expectation that she could use me without consequence. Freed myself from the expectation that I had to give endlessly without receiving anything back. And in that freedom, painful and terrifying as it was, we both found something we'd lost. Ourselves. And eventually each other. So if you're reading this, if you're someone who's been giving and giving until there's nothing left, if you're someone who's been treated like you don't matter by the very people you've sacrificed everything for, I want you to know something. You have the right to walk away. You have the right to save yourself. You have the right to demand respect, gratitude, basic human decency. And if the people you love can't give you those things, if they can only take and take and take, then you have the right to say, enough. Not because you don't love them, but because you also love yourself. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for them and for you is to let them stand on their own. Even if they fall. Even if it hurts. Even if it breaks your heart. Because healing starts when honesty does. And you can't be honest with someone else until you're honest with yourself about what you need, what you deserve, and what you will no longer tolerate. That's what I learned on a rooftop in Phoenix, on the worst day of my life. The day I unraised my daughter. The day I saved us both.